All right, let's talk about a piece of technology that could, no exaggeration, become the invisible engine of our future. It's called Ambient IoT, and it has a wild promise to connect pretty much everything around us without ever needing a single battery. Let's dig in. So let's start with a number, a really, really big number. The folks at Bluetooth estimate the potential market for this new kind of connection isn't in the billions, but in the trillions. 10 trillion devices. That's more than 1,000 connected things for every single person on the planet. Just let that sink in. And that incredible scale immediately creates a massive problem, right? Can you imagine having to charge or change the batteries for trillions of tiny sensors? In our homes, on farms, inside factories. It's not just a hassle, it's an environmental and logistical nightmare. So the huge question becomes, how on earth do power a 10 trillion device world? Well, the answer requires a radical shift in how we think about power. Instead of trying to put a tiny power source in every single device, what if the devices could just pull power from the world around them? This is the huge idea at the heart of Ambient IoT. So what is it officially? At its core, Ambient IoT is this whole ecosystem where tons of everyday objects are connected using sensors that are, one, incredibly cheap to make, and two, this is the magic part, they're self-powered. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a total game changer. So how do they power themselves? They basically become little energy scavengers. These tiny devices are designed to sip power from the ambient radio waves that are already all around us, Wi-Fi, cellular signals, or from sunlight, heat, even tiny vibrations. The energy is already out there, just waiting to be used. And listen, this isn't some niche, futuristic idea. As Benson Chan, who chairs the IoT Advisory Board for the U.S. Department of Commerce, puts it, this is the original vision for the IoT. It's finally delivering on that original promise of seamlessly connecting our physical and digital worlds. Okay, so powering themselves is one thing, but how can a device with virtually no energy actually communicate? How does it send a signal? This is where some seriously clever engineering comes in that completely rethinks how wireless communication even works. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Right now, your phone and other devices use what's called active transmission. They're essentially shouting. They have to generate their own powerful radio signal from scratch, and that takes a lot of energy from a battery. Ambient IoT devices, they do something called backscatter. They don't shout, they reflect. They just take the existing radio signals in the air, tweak them ever so slightly, and bounce them back. Here's the best analogy for it. Shouting across a field takes a lot of your own energy, right? But what if you just held up a mirror to reflect a sound that's already there? That takes almost no effort. It's the difference between using a big flashlight to create your own beam of light versus using a tiny mirror to reflect a sunbeam that's already shining. It's just so much more efficient. Now, to make this work for trillions of devices, you can't have a free-for-all. You need a rule book, a standardized blueprint, so everything can talk to everything else. And that's where organizations like 3GPP come in. They're the global group that defines all our mobile standards, from 3G all the way to 5G. And now they're building the framework for this new kind of network. So 3GPP has basically defined three main flavors of these devices. Think of Type A as the simplest of the simple. A super low-cost sensor, no battery, just reflecting signals. Type B is a little step up. It can store a tiny bit of the energy it harvests, maybe so it can send a stronger reflection when it needs to. And then Type C is the most capable. It kind of bridges the gap to our current devices with its own energy storage and even the ability to sometimes generate its own signal. And just like there are different types of devices, there have to be different ways for them to talk to the network. This flexibility is absolutely key to making it work everywhere, from a single smart room to a massive global supply chain. The standard lays out four main ways to connect. The simplest is a direct connection, where a sensor talks straight to a cell tower. Easy enough. Then there's via relay, where a sensor might use something else, like your home's Wi-Fi router, as a middleman. For longer distances, you might need an assisted node to help pass the signal along. And finally, you have peer-to-peer, which is really cool, where a sensor could connect directly to your smartphone, no cell tower needed. That versatility is what makes the system so powerful. So we've covered the how, which is fascinating. But let's get to the why. Why does connecting trillions of battery-free things actually matter? Well, because it unlocks a world of applications we've really only been able to dream about until now. I mean, just imagine it, a farmer knowing the exact moisture level of every square foot of their field. A supply chain where you can track every single package, not just the pallet, in real time. Smart labels that can tell you instantly if your medication is real or fake. Tiny sensors in a forest that can detect a wildfire before it gets out of control. Or sensors that can help monitor the health of an elderly relative. The possibilities here are just immense. And listen, this isn't science fiction. This is happening now. By 2022, we already had over 13 billion connected devices out there. Huge companies like Walmart are already starting to deploy this tech at a massive scale. And the forecasts, they show the number of IoT devices more than doubling by 2028. And you can bet Ambient IoT is going to be a huge driver of that growth. So, what does this all add up to? We're not just looking at another cool gadget here. We are looking at a fundamental shift in how our world is connected and how we understand it. Ultimately, Ambient IoT is so much more than just a new feature for 5G. It's really seen as a fundamental building block for what comes next, for 6G. The big vision there is a totally seamless cyber-physical world, where our digital and physical lives are perfectly woven together. And this is the tech that could actually make that possible at scale. So I'll leave you with this final thought. For decades, our imagination has been limited by the need for a battery or a plug. That limit is starting to disappear. So what would you connect if you never, ever had to worry about its power source again?